10 children, Mama and Papa. And Papa, he was a religious person. He was a Sunday school superintendent at Ebenezer Baptist Church.
That's just about 3 miles down the road here?
Right about that. And at nights, the house had 6 rooms, but it was a big hallway down the center, 3 rooms on either side, and the kitchen was in the back, separate building. And we sit there at night and read the Bible. He'd read the Bible to us.
I don't care what the weatherman says. When the weatherman says it's raining, you'll never hear me complaining. I'm certain the sun will shine.
1932 was a tough year for most Alabamians. Our state, like the rest of the nation, was in the midst of the Great Depression. Thousands were out of work. The state debt was massive, and revenue was at an all-time low. It was not the best of times, but folks managed to get by somehow.
We raised what we ate, so there was no shortage of food.
The spring of 1932 would bring even more trouble.
We're just a loving family. We just love being together.
Jack Latham lived in the community of Ryderville in Chilton County between Clanton and Selma. He was only 4 years old on March 21st, 1932, but his memory of that evening is stunningly clear 7 decades later.
I remember it was raining. It stopped raining. It felt like it's hot, and then the next minute it seemed like it's cool. And the weather was just acting crazy. And the family that was closest to us, our closest neighbors, was named Harrison. And all the boys would be out there in the fields plowing, ready to get the soil ready to plant. And that night, about 6:30.
This was March 21st of 32.
1932. About 6:30, we heard a big loud noise. He went and opened the door and looked out and said, "My God, it's a cyclone." He didn't have time to do anything. He opened that door and it hit about the time he said, "My God, it's a cyclone." That's just about when it all hit.
Now, what do you remember about that?
Now, the actual, other than just listening to him saying, "My God, it's a cyclone," that's about all that, I mean, as far as the house, the neighbor said it went up about 50 feet in the air and exploded. And then the people scattered all over the place.
So the house sat here.
Right.
Where were you found?
Generally somewhere near my mother. Now, she was found over to the left over here. There was all plowed ground, fresh plowed to be planted. Mm-hmm. And she
now
was...
Your mom passed away, as did...
She was killed. She was buried in soft dirt up to her neck and had barbed wire all in her hair.
So you were near your mom?
Near her.
And tell me about your injuries.
Well, I had abdominal injuries. My chest was crushed. In fact, now it looks like I'm deformed, one different side different than the other. And in the hospital, Dr. Drayton Doherty, had told Ms. McMillan, who had rolled me into the operating room, to just have him open his grave. He won't make it. But Lord with me, I made it.
You made it. Tell me about your dad. Where was he found?
He was found back toward Plantersville, quite a distance away from here.
So you're talking maybe more than a mile?
Oh, yes. And then my younger brother was right near the road there. He was there crying and calling for Mama. And then some of my sisters that were killed were over to the right. And the oldest sister, Velma, she was found and blown back in the direction the tornado came from, back across that creek, that stand of woods over there.
Now, she was about 22?
She was 22. Mm-hmm. And all she had left on her, what she'd been wearing, was just a cuff of a dress, cuff of a sleeve of a dress.
Now, of the 10 children, the 4 youngest survived.
Right.
And
they put the 4 youngest in the ambulance at one time, and it's 27 miles to Selma, so they took us to Vaughn Memorial Hospital. And we did not know anything about the family being dead until sometime after it happened. There used to be a big barn right here, and that's where Papa kept that T-Model Ford that he was so proud of when he didn't drive it when he couldn't get gas.
What happened to the car?
It just looked like somebody took a freight train and dropped on top of it and mashed it. And then there was a box nailed to the barn that Mama had put a dozen eggs under it, so setting hen. And that barn was demolished. The box was thrown away from where the barn had been. The hen didn't leave the nest, didn't lose a feather, and all the eggs hatched.
Get out of here.
And they took the hen and baby chicks to Selma Memorial Hospital in Selma, where we were.
Quite frankly, we really don't know how many people died that night, but newspaper accounts let us know that at least 268 people lost their lives, with over 2,500 injuries. Over 7,000 people in Alabama were left homeless.
I feel sure it was an F4. Of course, it's impossible to tell without going back and having extensive photographs from the air and so forth to tell now, but I feel sure from all the descriptions it was at least an F4.
Do you have any idea if this was a long track tornado or if it was on the ground for a short time? Have you been able to determine that?
Don't think it was on the ground for an extra long time, but the same storm system went on over and produced a major tornado in Coosa County and Clay County. There was a case in Clay County where a new automobile, which had to be a 1932 Model T Ford, was airborne for over 400 yards. That's 4 football fields.
Now, your dad prayed an interesting prayer, according to what you found out just prior to this tornado here. What did he say?
He was at this store where we traded up there, and it was the middle of the Depression. And there were several people there, and he told her, said, I've just been praying to God that just take me and my whole family, because I can't support them like I'm supposed to, like I should. And they all told him, well, things are going to get better, and look out, things would be better. And it's disturbed me all these years because about 2 weeks after he prayed that prayer, told me he prayed it, that tornado hit.
The tornado was the beginning of a long, hard journey for the 4 orphans.
And it gives you pause to wonder whether it was caused by the prayer he prayed or just nature's weird happenings. We were supposed to have been adopted. They had been said that either the one that adopted us would take either all 4 or none. And the rest of my relatives had so many children they wouldn't even entertain the idea of them adopting us. And a family, Willie E. Bruce, Mr. and Mrs. Willie E. Bruce and Selma, had said they would take the 4 of us. And it was about 2 months after the tornado, we went there to stay with them. And they let it be known right away that they only wanted my younger brother and my sister. They cared nothing for my older brother and me. And they began to mistreat him. And they finally got rid of him, shipped him off to the welfare department.
So life was a struggle.
It was completely confusing because you didn't feel like you belonged anywhere. And I had the feeling, having just been told in the hospital when I was that young that my family was dead, I felt like if I went over the next hill, around the next curve, or to the next town, I might find them. I couldn't accept the fact that they were dead. I had not seen the grave sites. I hadn't seen the headstones. And I had seen nothing to show me that they really were dead. And I just felt like, now I'm going to wake up one of these times and there I'll be home. And I went in the Army when I was 14. I got tired of being kicked around, pillar to post, and I told them I was 19. At that time, all they wanted was warm bodies, cannon fodder. That's about what you could call it.
58 years passed before Jack saw the gravesite of his parents, brothers, and sisters. They were buried in a cemetery near Ebenezer Baptist Church in Stanton.
Now, this has been broken and moved, and that's Bonard. He's the next to the oldest boy was killed. It said Leela next to the oldest girl. This is the oldest girl.
She was 22.
Right. And then here's Mama. And then this Papa's right here when he got Jack on it. And this is the oldest boy, Woodard. And this is Bertha. And then the youngest was killed with Louise.
When you saw this, what was the first thing that ran through your mind after 50 years?
I kind of had a chill run down my spine. Because I couldn't really believe it. I finally had seen it. And that's where I say I got up next to the headstone and I got kind of down on my, not hands and knees, but I squatted down and I just felt like if I stayed there for a while, I might get some closure or something said, or I don't know, it sounds crazy to say it, but that's just the way it was.
So you're still looking for the answer to the question of why did God leave me here and take the rest of my family members that day long ago?
Why did they leave the 4 of us alive and the others gone? I've never gotten over that, and I still, to this day, I wonder whether Papa praying like he did at that store, whether that brought that tornado on 2 weeks later, or whether that was just one of the freaks of nature that had happened.